Hello and welcome to this presentation created by Anya Winch and Brianna Quinto about authentic arts education for years 5 and 6. Starry Night was painted by Vincent van Gogh in the June of 1889. It depicts the sky from his east-facing room at the asylum where he was admitted. In this authentic arts education unit, as well as looking at the painting created by Vincent, students will be listening to the song Starry, Starry Night by John McLean and exploring the life of Vincent van Gogh. We'll now go through 5 authentic arts lessons and assessments that can be used to cover this topic. So for music, students will be exploring and listening to a piece of music whilst looking at the painting Starry Night. The song was performed by John McLean by the same name. The children will first hear the song with painting in the background and will be given a sheet with lyrics to which they can follow along. Students by the end of the lesson will have analysed lyrics, identified stanzas in the music, and be able to depict and explain metaphors within the song. Students will also be introduced to the topic of mental health and Vincent van Gogh's battle with his. After listening to the song, students will be able and asked to write down notes about what they felt while listening to the music. They will briefly share what they experienced as well. Lyrics on the paper will be broken down into different stanzas, which will be analysed by teacher and students. Another stanza depicts Vincent's love for painting, but how his paintings could never love him back. Students will be asked to reflect upon what they believe Vincent was going through in his hospital room and inspired him to paint Starry Night. Students, as we said before, will also be introduced to the idea of mental health. This lessons, students will be able to reflect upon their own feelings while listening to the song. As the teacher, these reflections will be facilitated by working on the meaning of the lyrics and how students interpret them. Students will also use the skills to learn about mental health and how this relates to our world today. Students will use oral language to explain why they have chosen these suggestions. This will access their metacognitive skills. Students will also share notes in whole class discussions and discuss differences and similarities they felt in the song. Here you can see a list of the lyrics of the John McLean song, as well as a link to the song with pictures in the background of famous Vincent paintings that students can witness.
Colors changing hue, morning fields of amber gray, weathered faces lined in pain are soothed beneath the artist's loving hand.
For the drama lesson, students will be discussing lyrics from the previous music lessons and talk about how Vincent was considered an outsider and didn't have many friends beyond his family. Students will create a rumour mill and gossip about Vincent as if they were townspeople living and seeing him. Teachers to discuss before they start about how the townspeople may be feeling, whether they're scared of him, whether they think he's a bit odd, and why they feel this way. By the end of this lesson, students will have created a space where empathy and acceptance is explicit and inherent, and understand more about Vincent, his life, and dealing with mental illness, as well as the impact it had on his surrounding town and family. For the main learning activity, after the room mill, the teacher is to enter in role as Vincent's brother Theo. The teacher is to ask questions such as, why are you being so cruel? Why don't you understand my brother is sick? Etc. After this discussion, and questions can be also asked to the teacher in role, students to go back to the room mill. After a few minutes, the teacher in role is to re-enter as Vincent. Students are able to then ask questions to him. Finishing the lesson with students restating their opinion and how it has changed from the beginning allows students to reflect upon their thoughts and why their opinions have changed. And to finish off the lesson, they'll be watching a clip from a British TV show called Doctor Who that in the episode explores Vincent's and his paintings as well as his mental health. I'll show a short clip of it here in a minute. So within this lesson, students are not only connecting with a stimulus but also connecting with their own thoughts and the thoughts and reflections of their peers. Finishing with connection to another stimuli opens their mind to what it might have been like if Vincent was painting in the 21st century. Group learning in this drama lesson allows students to learn through their peers. Sharing ideas with peers also allows students new perspectives, and having the teacher role and the room meal allows the teacher to move the lesson along, as well as add in new perspectives that students may have not thought of. Now I'll play a small part of this clip for your viewing.
So, but I just wondered, between you and me, in 100 words, where do you think Van Gogh rates in the history of art?
Well, big question, but to me, Van Gogh is the finest painter of them all. Certainly the most popular great painter of all time, the most beloved, his command of colour the most magnificent. He transformed the pain of his tormented life into ecstatic beauty. Pain is easy to portray, but to use your passion and pain to portray the ecstasy and joy and magnificence of our world, no one had ever done it before. Perhaps no one ever will again. To my mind, that strange, wild man who roamed the fields of Provence was not only the world's greatest artist, but also one of the greatest men who ever lived.
What an incredible clip that would be for your students to experience. For the dance lesson, students are going to explore the feelings and the visual of Starry Night. Students will be looking at the painting and asked to come up with a word wall with words they feel would describe the painting. These could be words such as swirl, calm, nighttime, village, blue, etc. By the end of the lesson, students will explore movement through stimulus, including different elements of dance. Students will also create their own choreographed dance. After creating the word wheel, students will be asked to draw in groups what they believe these words would look like on paper. Students will have one continuous line that could involve loops, swirls, dimensions, etc., following the Starry Night. Then they will perform what their abstract drawing represents, giving their dance height, width, body movement, levels, etc. This lesson will have students creating their own dance, which represents what they believe Starry Night represents. Students will also have the opportunity to work in whole class and group discussions while working on their own choreography. Students will be engaged throughout the lessons by visual cues and will have been grouped based on classroom management. Students will discuss with their table different movements for their dance. The media arts and visual arts lessons mix together to help create the formative assessment in this unit as well. For media arts, students will begin by watching a short video on how visual diaries could be constructed and begin planning their video for their art piece. For their final assessment, students will be creating a visual diary to explain how they created their visual arts assessment. Students will share their comprehension of the story, and students will share their main idea of the story using key details to back their answers. Students will be creating, for this assessment, their own interpretation of the Starry Night. Students will use paints, pencils, clay, construction materials, etc., and will take step-by-step photos of their creative process, then make a visual diary followed by an explanation of their interpretation.